Hello and welcome. Now, if you're new to the channel, what I'm currently doing is I'm making a functional, powered, armoured exoskeleton, i.e. power armour, like the previous prototype you can see before me. And I thought as the Mighty Space Marine 2 is coming out, I could do something a little bit different and do a react and rate to different suits of power armour from sci-fi settings. Of course, I'll be starting off with the Astartes. I figured if you're into sci-fi, there might be some little insights that you might find interesting, as I've found it personally surprising how good some of the features are in sci-fi suits, while having what looks like normal, regular features that unfortunately just don't actually work. So we'll go over to the first clip, which is going to be the original Space Marine 2 cinematic, as I do think it shows the Space Marines in all of their glorious performance. What I also love about this animation is the fact that it shows the weight of the power armour. Again, shows the weight beautifully powering through them. So I'll just pause it there. It shows two features. One that actually works better than you think, if you can get them to work right, and one that doesn't. The one that works better than you think is actually the pauldrons. I experimented with different shapes and sizes of pauldrons and all the rest of it, and if you could get them to fit right, then having big circular pauldrons, I actually realised would probably work the best. The problem is with them, you do need some form of separate actuator to hang them off of, so they can move freely from the arm and basically move with the arm. Which, in 40k lore, as some of you may know, they do have servo mounts and they do move freely with them. However, in real life, trying to jam all that in is a problem. And while it does work fine on a super soldier that's 7-8 foot tall, the extra weight of those pauldrons is an issue on just mere mortals. The other feature is the chest plate. Unfortunately, as cool as it looks, having a really wide chest plate just limits your movement massively. This is something I realised straight away. So if you have chest plate armour that wide, what happens is when you put your arms out and you want to bring them in straight, you typically stop about there. You can't bring your arms in straight to the middle because the chest plate would have to basically be the width of a stringer vest. Hence why when you look at medieval armour, they've all got really wide pauldrons that come over the front because the chest plate is actually quite narrow for that reason. But something they did really well in this trailer is as he's moving forward with a chainsaw and with a pistol, he's actually going basically like orthodox to southpaw stance over and over. And he's never actually having to bring that chainsaw or that pistol in front of his chest, so that issue then doesn't matter, at least for the contents of the trailer. And the last thing on this trailer is what I believe is called the gorget, or the collar that goes on the top of the chest plate. As much sense as it makes to have it, because obviously you want to cover your neck. When I first tried a type of a collar on the mock-up armour that I originally made, I soon realised that as soon as you have that collar there, you basically can't see the floor or anything in front of you below your eye line. Like basically, below where your nose is, you can't see anything. Which is surprising how difficult it is to do things when you can't actually look at your hands down in front of you. Or how natural it feels as you're walking forward and you literally just can't see to any degree where your feet are. Weird. We'll now move on to the forever fantastic Astartes series by Syama Pederson. I hope I'm saying his name right. Something I love here is how the Space Marines are actually filling the doorways up and you can see the size of the boots on the steps. The main reason my design is like it is basically to fit through doorways and go up and down stairs. The original size of my armour was way bigger, and then I realised, I'm basically defeated by a small doorway or a tight set of steps. So I had to reduce the size down massively. It's also why I don't have full pauldrons on any of my designs. Just because as soon as you have your arms up, you literally can't fit through doorways. So I love how basic that movement was. The fact that rightly so you'd have heard the footsteps through whatever type of headphones he'll have in the helmet itself, but crucially how when he's pulled the knife and neutralised his target, it was only done with his arm and no movement of body, because if you are that weight and that size, there is literally no need for you to move more than an arm, because the body it's attached to is just going to be like a concrete post stood there. And this shows the exact point of power armour. Regular small arms, or relative small arms, being completely useless against it. I wanted to get to this little scene just so I could pause it, because you can see, one, how the pauldrons move separately from the rest of the arms and how you'd have to get them to work if you were making them in real life. Two, how wide the chest plate is and how that'd give you the previous aforementioned issues. But also another issue which looks ridiculous, but I've found if you want full coverage of armour, you kind of end up having to do it. So if you are armouring an exoskeleton, which I know isn't quite what Space Marine power armour is, you would inevitably have quite a large ankle joint. So it means to get the coverage, you have to have quite a big amount of lower leg armour that flares around the boot slightly. You have to keep that as tight as possible and at a certain height so you can still get up and down steps. But I have realised it's nearly impossible to have that portion well armoured but also narrow and shaped at the same time. Okay, so two things with the backpack. One, I actually think they're pretty accurate, even though the backpack power pack all looks massive in 40k over the top, as 40k does. I think it's actually accurate to the size of power pack you'd need to power a suit by the time you're done, especially a suit this big. In 40k, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have a little nuclear fusion reactor powering the suit, and that's what the backpack is. Now, whether they had that sci-fi technology or batteries to power a suit that big, you pretty much have to have a backpack that big. But a feature in this animation that I like is the fact that the backpack of one of the Astartes have equipment that the rest of the squad shares. When I thought about how suits of power armor, exoskeletons and everything else will be used in combat, you're typically going to have a little bit less personal mobility regardless, so taking a backpack on and off to get things out of it is just going to slow you down. And the last thing for this animation is actually a helmet, which do just look absolutely incredible. I don't think you can ever replace the OG Vox Astartes helmet. They're also not as ridiculous as you think. The grilled mouthguard in 40k is, I believe, meant to be a Vox speaker and not as such part of the armour, and then you've actually got the breathing apparatus coming around the sides. The vent on the top would be great for cooling, as well as looking cool. The few features that I've realised would be a problem is, one, the helmet goes too far down at the back, meaning you can't look up. Two, it's actually weird if you have big things over your ears that also go right to the bottom of the helmet. You soon start catching the chest plate when you move left and right, more than you think. The other feature, particularly from the manufacturing point of view and the space inside the helmet, is you see how kind of the faceplate is set in. You'd actually want it the other way around because you've got less room in front of your face, especially with the room for optics. So you basically want the top of the helmet to fit as tightly and comfortably as possible, but you actually want more space up at the front of the helmet. So you'd want it set out, if anything, and not set in. However, it does of course add to the timeless look. And I don't think there's been an animation who's portrayed it as well as this one. in short, Space Marines will be forever awesome. The plus sides of their armour is, of course, the absolute wrecking balls. Their actuation is done by the undersuit that's under the actual armour plate, and that itself is activated by the black carapace, which, if you're not into 40k, is a physical augmentation that the Space Marines are planted into that allows them to work seamlessly with the suits of armour. I actually think the biggest downside is the fact that if you want to defeat a Space Marine, realistically you just need like a small doorway made out of granite that's like a metre thick of granite. And that will pretty much defeat a Space Marine. But that, of course, is when you'd send the ever-expendable Imperial Guard in to do that work. So I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next video in this little series, I'll go over my thoughts on Terminator armour and probably a few others. And if you're new to the channel and you're interested in the Armoured Exoskeleton project, please feel free to like and subscribe and check out the videos on the rest of the channel. I'm forever progressing on the next prototype. I've got a type of helmet here. Videos on actuators will be coming soon. So yeah, I hope to see you on the next video.